Will India stop buying Russian oil? That question refuses to go away, even as New Delhi and Washington project confidence over the newly announced India's trade deal framework. Ever since US President Donald Trump first revealed that tariffs on Indian exports to the US would be cut to 18% and later clarified that the proposed 25% secondary tariffs would be dropped, attention has shifted sharply to what India may have conceded behind the scenes, especially on energy. Russia has become one of India's largest crude suppliers since the Ukraine war began, offering discounted oil at a time when global energy prices were volatile and inflation risks were high. For India, these purchases were not about geopolitics, but about economics, protecting growth, shielding consumers, and ensuring energy security. But Washington has repeatedly signaled discomfort over countries continuing energy trade with Moscow, and speculation has been rife that Russian oil could be a bargaining chip in the evolving India's trade and strategic relationship. On Wednesday, the government addressed the issue, but without giving a straight yes or no. Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri said India's energy sourcing decisions will be guided strictly by national interest. He emphasized that India imports between 80 and 85% of its oil needs, making diversification not a choice, but a necessity. Misri underlined that India must constantly balance supply security, price stability, and inflation concerns, particularly in a global environment where disruptions are frequent and geopolitical tensions remain high. What Misri did not say is just as important as what he did. There was no confirmation that India would stop buying oil from Russia. There was no timeline offered. And there was no indication that energy purchases were formally linked to the trade deal framework announced by President Trump. Instead, the message from South Bloc was one of strategic ambiguity, keeping options open while signaling that India will not take decisions under external pressure. This stance fits a pattern India has followed since the Ukraine conflict began. New Delhi has consistently argued that energy purchases are a sovereign decision rooted in domestic needs, not ideological alignment. India has also pointed out that many Western nations continue indirect trade with Russia, even as they urge others to cut ties. For India, walking away abruptly from a major supplier could expose the economy to price shocks, supply shortages, and renewed inflation, risks the government is unwilling to take. At the same time, the emphasis on diversification is not accidental. India has been expanding oil imports from the Middle East, the United States, Latin America, and Africa. The goal is not dependence on any single source, Russia included, but flexibility. That gives New Delhi room to maneuver diplomatically while safeguarding its economic interests. As India and the US depend their trade and strategic partnership, energy will remain a sensitive and closely watched issue. For now, the government is making one thing clear: India will not publicly commit to stopping Russian oil purchases, and any decision on energy will be driven by national interest, not trade deal optics. The question, then, remains open, not answered, but carefully managed.